Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to our next webcast that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly as part of our Roadmap to Recovery series. And you can see that I'm joined today by Bruce Poon Tip, who is, of course, the founder of G Adventures. So, hi, Bruce, you're joining us from Toronto. Thank you for coming to see us again.
Thank you for having me, Lucy. So good to see you.
Well, likewise. And, you know, Bruce, I was looking back. You joined me for a webcast on the 30th of April last year.
Wow.
And we were just sort of in the first stages, I guess, of dealing with...
We were probably talking about, oh, this has probably got another 30 days.
Yes. Yeah, I think we were saying, okay, we were talking a lot about refunds and cancellations, but we definitely thought we would be out of it by now.
Oh,
so,
yes.
You know, 11 months into this, I wonder if you could just sort of, you know, tell me what you've been up to, try and summarize it since we last spoke. I mean, you must have thought it was be over by now.
Yeah, I mean, I think until about July, we all thought we were going to get out of it anytime soon, right? It's when July started coming around that we realized, you know, when people started first making the call that we're not going to get any travelers in 2020. And then when we started getting to the end of 2020, we thought, geez, this is going to go long into 2022. But for us, it's been, you know, like every other company, putting the company in hibernation. We've had to make some really tough decisions early on with layoffs and furloughs, and we have operations in 100 countries. So we're dealing with lots of like different government programs to help us as a company, but also help our employees that we had to let go or furlough. And it's also been a learning experience because, you know, as I said, originally we just laid people off thinking we'd bring them back on. I mean, I promised people on their way when they were leaving that, you know, we're going to work hard to bring you back. And there was a reality where, you know, there's no sense of people waiting, because even when we do come back, we're going to be at a much smaller size, and we have to, you know, be prepared for survival at one point. But now, I mean, I think starting around October, we started to see the, you know, the green shoots of a return.
And you did start running it. You did run a few tours, didn't you, through the summer into autumn? So
yeah, we
had a little period. How did that
September,
go
October.
Yeah.
So September and October, we managed to, we ran, I think, 25 tours in September and 28 tours in October to mainly Europe, countries that were open like Greece, Croatia, Switzerland, Mont Blanc. We're very successful there. And then it's a very fluid situation at the moment. We had trips opening in Spain, and then they got reclosed, and we had to close those trips. But we started running a lot of trips in November. So in November, Costa Rica opened, and we opened trips up, and all of our trips sold out. We opened Tanzania, Maldives, the Maldives in December. We ran about 40 trips in November, 50 or so trips in December, and January is actually really, you know, more trips going, where we had a lot of actually Tanzania trips there. We have 10 groups on the ground right now in Tanzania. So
and where are
small amount of groups?
Yeah, and where are your customers coming from? You know, because obviously you sell in many different parts of the world, don't you, with source markets? So we've got an international ban at the moment, but where are your customers mainly coming from?
Well, in Europe, they were Europeans during in the fall, and Costa Rica is North Americans, you know, coming from the United States and Canada. But the Tanzania passengers right now are still Europeans. They're all Europeans that are going to Tanzania. We're getting a lot of expat Canadians that know about us, or expat that live in the Middle East and things like that are willing to travel. Yeah, so it's a smattering of people. I mean, for us, we usually run thousands of groups a month. So just to give you an idea of size, I mean, running 50 groups is not a big deal. But it's just great to get our, you know, dip our toe in the water again. And it's a lot of positive attitudes on our communication channels internally that we're running trips again.
Yeah.
We opened Peru for February, and, you know, a ton of our trips sold out, and we have to cancel again because they locked down again. So it's just a fluid situation like that.
So with that fluid situation, you know, is it easier just to say, well, look, we're going to pause until a certain date, or do you leave it to the very last minute because you want to keep trying?
It's different with every country. Like we also work with a lot of, we're in constant communication with governments and staying in contact with what's going on. And because the governments are wanting to work with us. Like one of the things that's going on right now, if you look at our social channels, the government of Peru wanted to run a test trips on the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu.
Yeah.
And so they chose us.
They've selected G Adventures,
Yeah.
haven't they?
Yeah, to run that trip, and with a lot of officials, and to test all the new protocols that they're going to be running when they run the Inca Trail again. So when we're doing stuff like that, we're learning as well as we go. And but some countries are doing better. Like Japan is linked to the Olympics, obviously, and they're very keen to get, and they're very advanced and there's a lot of pressure there to get people traveling there again. So we want to be part of that before and after the Olympics. Yeah, we want to, we want to be on the forefront of convincing people to start traveling again, right?
Yeah. Well, you talk about social media, Bruce, and I saw you tweet the other day an article from CNN, which was talking to lots of travel experts who were saying actually travel may restart sooner than you think. And you'd added your comment saying, well, this expert thinks so too. Let's go with what you wrote. So tell us what you meant by that.
Well, I do believe that travel is going to come back quicker than people think. I mean, it's not going to be like back to normal numbers, but there's early adopters, and there's a lot of people that want to travel before crowds start again. If you can remember, just before the pandemic, there was all this talk of over-tourism, and some of the most iconic places you can see now. And there's going to be a lot of people that are motivated to travel early as soon as they can. And we're seeing that already right now. The passengers we're taking on trips right now are absolutely loving it, and loving like our Tanzania groups that are going in the on safari. They're seeing no passengers anywhere, and they're absolutely loving it. And so I think there's going to be people like that. I also think the change is going to be very fast. Once we get this whole vaccine sorted out, I think that the confidence is going to come back quicker than people think. Now, when I say that, I mean, there's just so many doom and gloom people right now saying there's no travelers till 2022, and I don't believe that. We were seeing very strong, a very strong case to say that we're going to get significant travelers this summer.
Okay, that's really encouraging to hear, because we're certainly getting those sort of, well, like you say, there's mixed reports, isn't there? There's lots of people that are saying, quite pessimistically saying 2022, but there's others that are saying hopefully by the summer this year.
Well, let me just say that when people make those kind of predictions, they're basing it on what we know today, right? And so what we have to do in the industry is look forward and saying, like, what's going to change and what do we need to get people to travel? And there's two things that are going to get people traveling faster. The vaccine is a non-starter. I mean, that's the base of what we need. But the number one thing we need is rapid testing. And I don't know if you've read that in the news, all the kind of home tests that they're starting to release. That is going to be a game changer for us as operators, and we can test people on trip, mid-trip, after trip to give them the test they need to get home. And the other thing is the quarantining when you return home. So I believe that regardless of the situation with vaccine, fully rolled out or herd immunity being hit, when we start relaxing the return home quarantines, and we can rapid test people at the airport getting on and off planes, I think it's going to change significantly. The amount of people.
So is G Adventures looking at, testing customers and sort of incorporating that cost into, your sort of what you're offering, or when you talk about these home testing kits, so go ahead and how you think it would work?
Well, right now we're doing it with what we have, but we don't have home testing. We don't have rapid testing. But we do know that all of our passengers that are presently traveling with us have to have negative tests when they arrive for the last 72 hours. So we're helping them facilitate that on the ground as part of the experience with our trips. So we try and get, depending on the trip and depending where we are 72 hours prior, we help facilitate where they are, or some passengers will stay an extra couple of days and do it, and we can guarantee we can help them in the departure city. But some people, depending on, in most of our trips at the moment, we'll be able to facilitate it 72 hours before, so you can leave on the day.
Okay.
So, and we're incorporating that in our trips at the moment.
So that's what's happening now. But you're saying when we get to this point, although we don't know when that's going to be, but hopefully soon with the home testing, that will make it even easier for people, or people will feel more confident.
People can just do their own tests, or we can administer tests, and that's just going to make everything easier, because they can give, you won't have to have a test actually coming home. With rapid tests, you can actually just get tested at the airport when you arrive.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's the easiest way for it to be done. And the technology does exist. It's just not being manufactured and being mass produced and available right now.
But you're saying you're confident for this year, so you're obviously confident that this kind of thing will be, again, sooner rather than later. That will be something.
Oh, I think we're going to have it in the next couple of months. I mean, that's according to what I'm reading.
Yeah.
They're starting to manufacture, rapid home tests.
Yeah. And Bruce, you just mentioned the vaccines there,
Mm-hmm.
the vaccine rollout. That was obviously, certainly for us, started at sort of November, December time. It started to really build momentum, and it got everyone quite excited. I think lots of people here were seeing sort of some good sales coming in. They were looking forward to a good January. Obviously in the UK that was curtailed really, because we then went into another national lockdown.
Yeah,
and I know so all that sort of excitement that we had for, not necessarily, it was never going to be a normal peaks, but we were looking forward to it being quite strong. It then hasn't really materialized. But what's been your experience for peaks, in all the different markets that you operate in?
Well, the UK was definitely a disappointment with the timing of that rollout, because I think all of us as operators had seen the green shoots of a return, a relative return to see some bookings coming in, and in January, even though most, with the flexibility we're offering customers, it was going to be far off. Like we're seeing booking windows of 7, 8, 9 months. But still, getting people to commit to travel is still a big deal for us as operators. And we saw, like, we had an amazing November, because with cyber sales and of different click kind of frenzies around the world. So going into January and even Christmas week, I mean, Christmas Day, people book trips. So that's Boxing Day. We had, and so we saw it building, but the UK lockdown really hurt the UK. We still saw amazing numbers in January for us. We hit 127% of target for, but it was, obviously no one's getting anything out of Australia, New Zealand, but North America, Canada, and the UK, it dampened the first couple of weeks of the UK, but the UK bounced back in the last half.
Okay.
And it's back to, but I mean, the UK's done an amazing job on the rollout. The news should focus on that, because you guys don't appreciate it, because you aren't in a country that's doing a terrible job like I am. Like Canada's doing a terrible job.
We've done a terrible job at other things, but yes, the vaccine seems to be something we appear to be getting right. Yes. Okay, fair enough. And then just sticking on the UK market for a second, Bruce.
Sure.
What are people booking? Are they booking for this year, then later this year, or are they invariably booking into 2022?
I mean, the booking windows are 7 and 8 months. Like we're seeing, July, August numbers, like people wanting to return then. We're definitely seeing bigger numbers though for the last quarter for sure. And so September, October, and admittedly in January we're offering sales, right? So people are willing to commit.
Yeah, because you're obviously offering more flexibility as well. So there's they can commit because they're
and we're trying to stimulate the market, right?
Absolutely.
And so, because we have lifetime deposits, and so we have millions of dollars in lifetime deposit customers, and it's amazing to us how many people said, I'm going to commit now for a trip at the discount. So, and so people are dying to travel. Like our data is showing that people are just waiting to travel, and you can see all those studies are showing about people's bank accounts. People have more money in bank in accounts right now because they haven't spent as much in lockdown, right? We've all been, and so there's going to be. It'll be when people can travel. There'll be the early adopters that'll go very quickly. There'll be the next people that will be a little bit more cautious, but will want to take advantage of no crowds, and will take a little bit of risk at a certain point. Then there's going to be a mid crowd that's going to follow through, and then there's people that as I said, prior to the pandemic, we all had those friends that were kind of borderline germaphobes, and this pandemic has really freaked a lot of people out and played with a lot of people's mental health and issues like that. And those people are going to be a long way away. before they'll
And
travel
is
again.
that related to age at all, or is it across
I don't think so.
all?
I don't think so. I mean,
It's not
certainly
just the
age.
younger lot that will be the early adopters. It's across. It's more of a
Well,
mindset thing.
the PR on this pandemic has always been it affects older people more, right? So yeah, so they're naturally more concerned, and the older demographic is, has always been the concern that of when they'll bounce back. But luckily, now that we never anticipated this, which is kind of weird, but we never anticipated that the vaccine rollout would go by age. So suddenly we've had to reflip all of our thinking, because we were thinking the over 50 mark is not coming back. The over 70 mark is not coming back until like 2022. We got to kind of focus on this. And then they flipped the vaccine by age. And now I think those people are going to travel first. We're seeing that as well. They're, older people are planning on being vaccinated by March.
And they want to get, and they now want to, they feel they've been trapped for a year and they want to get out, and see the world.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And another piece of research, we wrote about you launching these new mini adventures just today, actually, Bruce, because you're anticipating, or from your research, you're saying that certainly Brits are saying that when they do travel, they want to travel for longer. So you've got some of these mini tours now that you can bolt onto another G Adventures tour, or stay in cities for a bit longer. Tell us about that.
Yeah, there's this. Everyone's trying to anticipate how people are going to travel on the other side of this. It's the most asked question. I guess we have our philosophy like everyone else, but this whole idea of slow travel, that people are going to want to go travel less frequently but stay longer, and be able to. And so we are, putting our programs together to be component based, so that people can put many different experiences together and see multiple countries. Like if you go to Latin America, people might go to Latin America 3 or 4 times in their lives and see different countries, but now they might want to say, I'm going to go instead and stay, instead of going for 10 days or 2 weeks, I'm going to just go for a month, and I want to see 3 or 4 countries. And in order for that to work for us, it's a completely different way of operating in terms of planning of dates and how people can put things together.
And what's driving
technology.
What drives that, Bruce? Is it because people have got more money so they can afford to stay longer and do more? Or do they want to just avoid all the traveling through airports where they think potentially they might be more exposed to picking up an infection, and they'd rather be more time in a destination rather than multiple trips?
I think there's 2 things playing here. I think that the first thing is, I think there's a lot of talk about just carbon emissions, right? People are talking about flying less, and and the whole flight shaming that went on just before the pandemic has just been amplified to a fever pitch during this pandemic, because there's all these things about dolphins flying around through the canals of Venice and everything's returned, and everything's which was proven to be a hoax, by the way, but all these things that are causing people to think, well, maybe I'm not gonna feel good about traveling 4 times and take 2 or 3 vacations a year, different vacations, like take a weekend vacation, then a 10-day vacation, then a 2-week, and then on top of visiting family, and just how people use their vacation time, I think is just going to be very, very different. I think people have looking to explore their own countries more, their own regions, and closer to home. So I think, and then the last thing I think that people are doing is, and I hope, and it's not everybody, but there's more people. I think people are going to be more purposeful on the other side. They're gonna.
And you wrote a piece about more meaningful travel going forward, and I was interested in that, because what you say makes sense on one hand, but there'll be other people who will be like, actually at the moment it's sustainability or meaningful travel and all those, or purposeful travel, are the last thing people are thinking about. They want to save their businesses. They want to, people are worried about money. I wonder if it has come to the fore, or for some people, has it just slipped down the radar, this, this kind of consciousness around travel?
Well, the other side that you're talking about always existed, and that will always exist. I don't think we're going to see the entire industry pivot one way and we're all going to just suddenly be meaningful. But Lucy, I think it's going to be, it just takes a small amount of people to change the way they travel. We're never going to get rid of the cruises or compound resorts and those kind of holidays, which will always have a place and a purpose. But it just takes a small group of people to change the way they travel, to have a massive impact on the landscape of travel, but also positive impact on local communities. So,
Yeah.
and the more people talk about it, because it's being talked about all the time. I'm amazed because I've been doing this for 30 years at G Adventure. I'm amazed when I read mainstream media talking about. I did a morning show this morning, and it was all about regenerative travel, and I thought, wow, like imagine that I'm having this conversation on a mainstream morning show.
Yeah. You can
not,
really feel that it has become a much more mainstream topic of conversation.
The minute people start talking about it and asking questions about it, is when you create a market for it. And it's when the mainstream changes, right? And so more and more people are just asking that question, because I think, sometimes when you're doing something, if you remember when you were younger and you were doing something so crazy and ridiculous, and you don't realize till you stopped and you look back and say, holy cow, I can't believe I did that. Like, oh my, I can't believe.
Done that a lot. Done that a lot, I'm sure you have.
So I'm a believer that when the travel industry came to a complete stop, a lot of people look back and say, it's some pretty crazy stuff we were doing. Like, we had Broadway shows and we had go-kart racing on cruise ships and we, have, indoor surfing and zip lining and carousels and roller coasters to entertain people. And we're selling people on thread counts on sheets, and the destination is no longer relevant. I think once we stopped travel, we looked back and said, no, it's kind of ridiculous, like where the travel industry was when we were so focused on selling amenities over, and the destination was no longer important to people. It was like, how many restaurants do you have? Can I eat French, Italian, and Japanese food? And can I get a drink in a swim up bar?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And obviously, as you say, some of those kind of holiday products will still exist, but you're saying that if a small number of people in terms of consumers think about it and think, actually, I'd rather meet the people, eat the local food, learn the culture, then that will make quite a difference to the industry as a whole.
Yeah, and I said that the pandemic has made people think the world is very small. I think and it's really like after just 4 years and 5 years of divisiveness and division through politics, whether it's Brexit or whether it's immigration or building walls between Mexico and the United States, there's been this division. This pandemic has really made us think like we're in this together. I mean, we can't get out of this individually. We have to come together as a planet. There's no one can be left behind. I mean, that's the funny thing. It doesn't matter if the UK gets fully vaccinated. If every other country around you is not vaccinated, we all have to come out of this together. That's why there's all this talk about the equity of the vaccine distribution. I mean, why are we having this conversation? Because this virus started in a small little market in China, and within months it was in the most rural areas across the planet. So if you think we can vaccinate, certain parts
of the world, people,
to get out of this, we need each other. And that sense of and the recent elections and the way things are bouncing back to people coming together, unity again, the message of unity is.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because I saw you tweeting, as the Biden administration got in, and you said it was a new dawn and it was a new day. And so do you feel that will have a big impact on, as you say, this kind of unity and countries working together better for better good?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's already happened in 7 days. I mean, between countries and the globe getting along. I mean, he joined the Paris Accord. He joined the WHO, the World Health Organization, and and NATO was obviously under threat. So that's going to change. So, but then trade agreements and everything will. I mean, the human side though it's a long road. I mean, you saw what's happening and the division with the political division, and how wearing a mask has become a political statement. Like, imagine we've gotten to a place where you can be so angry to be angry when someone actually wears a mask, or the fact that you, by wearing a mask, it states your political affiliation. So, I mean, that kind of division is going to take a long time, but I don't think I don't think that's about unity. That's about healing. That's a very different place we need to be. But I do think it's all going to come together. I hope everyone starts, Brexit's now through, and that divisiveness and that fight, it's happened, it's behind us now. And so we all move forward, and there's a new world ahead of us. And I think there's a lot of reason to be optimistic.
And does that give you more optimism for what you might be able to achieve in the UK market, Bruce? Now that's all behind you, behind us, as you say.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's been a disaster in the UK, just in terms of the market and the travel market and the uncertainty of it, especially for the 50 plus market. That, when that whole Brexit thing happened, it was a shocker for, if you can imagine how much of a shock it was for you in the UK. Imagine the rest of the world thinking, what? They're going to separate? Like, are you kidding? The most successful union in the history of, of the planet is they're just going to. But anyway, so it happened. It's done. And just hopefully people just feel a sense of security again to travel again, and
well,
to
it's
also
having us. Yes, I mean, we've got to see what comes
as a
out
business,
of it, obviously,
as a business, it's not a good thing for us.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not a great thing for us. I mean, just in terms of even just employment based, because we have an office in Berlin and an office in the UK, and people used to travel back and forth, and we'd be able to get people from all over Europe to work, and it was just much easier. So there'll be challenges, but nothing that can be overcome. And
at least we now know. I guess that's
exactly
the thing. That uncertainty. It was the uncertainty before that was a big problem, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, how many years have they been kicking the can on that thing? Like, it seemed like every 6 months I kept saying, okay, well, it's going to return here. I mean, I don't get the top news on the UK, the pain of UK existence, but I kept thinking, okay, well, it always seemed like, okay, it's this March, this October, this January. And everything's going to be decided.
Oh no, we went right up to the wire, Bruce. We left it right.
I know,
right
but the funny thing is, at the end, nobody. I think people lost their will by the end, and you just said, like, just
well,
get it done.
think, and also don't forget, we were then in the middle of the coronavirus, the global health crisis, so that became more.
And so there was no more fight left in anyone. It was just like, if we're going to do this, let's get it done. Let's just get back to, because there hasn't been a stable market for the travel space in the UK for.
So let's see, you're confident this will help to get, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, just the stability that it's done, and then we can move on, and whatever the UK is going to look like in the future, you have the base of what the reality is in the future. There's no uncertainty anymore.
Just going back a little bit of what you said, you were talking about the local communities and how many countries you operate in, Bruce. And when I spoke to you in April, you were worried then about some of the communities that you support, particularly through your Planetera project, which but just by taking tours to these countries, you support them. But what's been how have you managed to support them through this pandemic as it's continued and as revenues still haven't come in the way you'd want them to? I mean, are there some communities that are really struggling?
I mean, that's a fantastic question, Lucy, and let me just thank you for asking that, because that's a big part of our existence as a business, and those communities, a lot of those communities, like we have 100 community projects, which we finished. We completed Project 100 in December, like we had planned to, by the end of 2020, and so that was a bit of a push to finish it through the pandemic, get some commitments from community projects, but we wanted to live up to our commitments as a business. But the answer to that is some communities are doing better than others. So some communities had, tourism as a side business for the community, and they were kind of exploring making it a more a bigger part of their of their communities, but there was a lot of communities that have struggled, that tourism was the only thing. Some of them, we kind of were involved in that conversation of getting them involved in tourism and getting rid of destructive kind of businesses like logging and stuff like that. So it's been tough. So what we've done is we've done a lot. We've done many campaigns. I did another one over Christmas, and we've matched donations, and we've done whatever we can. But we've actually went out to our travelers to take donations and tried to stretch our commitment by matching donations to our customers. We've raised, quite a bit of money and given many grants. I think at this stage we've given 35 grants to community projects, and they range in things from education assistance to food parcels to medicines. So we've done as much as we can. We can certainly do more. We're actually talking about that now, but it's also been an evolving thing. When we first started it, we didn't think we'd be still here in February, right? And so when we did that last Christmas appeal in December, this past just before Christmas. It did really well, and we we asked our customers again, and and we're raising money through some of our partners, but it's tough. I think we've done more than any other company could have done, and or has done, but we could do more, and we're trying to see. And now that we have a more of a reality of when we think travel can start, we can actually plan better, because it was so piecemeal, because we started in April by just taking what we had to help the immediate, because we thought travel's going to start by May. And then we used more money. Then G Adventures had to, take care of its own business, and we started running out. That's when we started to say, okay, if we're going to give more money, we're going to have to do an appeal to match donations to try and raise more money. And our travelers are amazing that way, especially people that have visited a lot of these projects. But that was in May, and that got us through to helping September. And then by September came, we realized, wow, this is going till the end of this year. And we did another big appeal tied to our anniversary at that time.
Have you been surprised at how your customers have responded to that appeal? I mean, it must be very heartening that they've felt that even when they probably have maybe lost their jobs, or and they've still managed to give to these communities that they've perhaps experienced.
It amazes me. It amazes me, actually. I mean, we're a travel company, as you know, and we see donations. A majority of our donations are under $100 or under $50, and tons of $20, $10, but
that all makes a difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference, and it's overwhelming, actually, at this time of need, because we're asking people to help people that many of them have visited on our trips, or they love the reason why they travel for us. So they're pretty passionate, because they realize that the trips that they took with us, it was those projects that made it so special for them.
Yeah.
But it's given us a reason to have a dialogue with our customers that transcends travel, right? And it's been amazing for us.
Yeah, so you're not just sending them an offer and trying to get them to book, but you've been able to talk to them. And I know it's not the same, but you obviously have other partners in travel agents. They're another type of partner that work with G Adventures, and a lot of them have been really struggling through this as well. So how have you kind of kept up the community? You talk about communicating still with your customers, but how have you continued talking to your trade partners through this?
I mean, we've done quite a bit, actually. Our trade partners, we've done everything we can to support them to get their, the travel credits used up, or long-term deposits used with their customers. Trying to generate any kind of business. We get constant letters from agents who are, telling us that that they didn't think that people, that people would book, and they worked with one of our GPSs and managed to get people to commit to travel. It's you're now part of a story when you contact people, where you're saying, okay, well, you have this long-term deposit. We're trying to keep the travel industry alive and going, and you can book a trip in the future. Just make a commitment, and you're supporting this industry. And it's amazing how many people want to do that, who want to be part of supporting us or supporting their agents. But I mean, with the travel agents, we also launched Ginormous, which we were debating whether to do it, and the agents have responded really well. So we've had a reason to communicate with them, and give them some the ability to kind of start talking to their customers.
Keeping them informed.
The best thing for us that we can do with agents is stay on top of what we talked about at the beginning of this. Help agents understand the recovery, because we have data that they don't have access to, because we can see patterns of people wanting to travel in July and August. So we can talk to them about that. And so we add dates and trips, and the component trips that we add, or the flexibility kind of things, or the book with confidence, or the book your bubble programs that we have. Those are kind of to assist them, but we can help them so much by talking about the science of rapid testing. Countries that are open and closed. There's so much for them to.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, I think at the moment when you can't go, I guess that's quite clear. But you're right. As each country has a different policy on how it's going to reopen, that's going to be a big education exercise.
It's going to be. it's going to be so complex. I mean, people, because it's not going to just say, okay, Thailand's open tomorrow. It's not going to be like that at all. It's going to be, and you know, and then the drop of quarantines for returning home. Those are things that are going to be all slow, and you know, right now it's 2 weeks. It might go down to 7 days, then 3 days, then 2. I don't know, but the agent has to be on top of all of that.
Yeah.
And we
So
can
you're
just
going to help them by
help with that be an information source
passing
for all
on that
that.
information. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Bruce, I'm conscious of your time, but you know, I do follow you on Twitter, and I do love some of your tweets, including the one that just went, "Be a goldfish."
Yes. You know what that means?
I think I know. Well, I'd like you to explain it.
Okay.
You go ahead.
Okay. Well, have you seen this show, Ted Lasso?
No.
Does anyone know this show on Apple TV? So Apple TV has formed their own content, and so Apple has, you know, a ton of money. They've invested a ton of money in making content, and the first couple shows have been amazing because they've actually hired some of the best story writers and best directors to make the first Apple TV content.
Okay.
Amazing. So they have this show, and it's so British. It's all British. So I'm amazed you haven't heard of it. It's called Ted Lasso. And
I'm writing it down. I will watch it. Go on, carry on.
So Ted Lasso is like one of the best shows that's come out in a long time, and we're all at G Adventures are just obsessed with it. But it's about. Do you guys have a football team called Richmond?
Richmond.
Richmond, like a football team called Richmond. Is it? I don't know if it's real. Is there a real football team called Richmond?
Oh God, you're asking the wrong people. I don't. What, like soccer?
Yeah,
football.
soccer. Yeah.
There probably is a team in Richmond, yes, but it's not a well-known one in a kind of like the Champions League or the Premier League.
Okay, so it's only 10 episodes of 30 minutes.
Okay.
And it's about a soccer team that gets so tired of losing, they decide to change their whole strategy, and they hire an American football coach to move to England and teach and coach a soccer team who he knows nothing about. And it's all about leadership and inspiring people to be their best. And one of his lessons is about being a goldfish. He says, and he keeps telling his people, when they lose, they have to forget about it, because the goldfish has the shortest memory of any living creature in the world. So sometimes in life and in leadership, you have to just forget, you know, the losses, and you just have to move on. Learn what you can, forget it, and move on. And so be a goldfish.
And you think that's a good lesson for anyone in business, and particularly even travel agents who have clearly had the most horrible year. So actually, could that apply to some of 100%. Our people watching us today?
So whenever, you know, adversity is our opportunity to grow. So when you get that opportunity to learn, take your learnings, and it's used in Ted Lasso. It's used as it's a really funny show. You have to watch it.
Well, look,
it's all British. It's all British humor too. It's about British tea, and there's just so many funny jokes about British things.
Are you going to have everyone's going to be watching it now? We're all going to be like, you know, tuning in to see whether it really is funny.
But Be a Goldfish is about, you know, once you get your learnings, you move on, and you have to just forget and look forward. So just about looking forward and forgetting. And we're in that situation right now with this pandemic. 2020 was just a disaster year, but it taught us so much. We all learned a ton. Get your learnings and look forward and be a goldfish.
Okay, and I'm not going to let you go then on that note without sort of just giving a bit of a predictions then, because I guess you have to do that as the boss. So getting through this year, you're talking about, you know, you're obviously hoping travel will come back, but when might we see things return to normal levels? Have you got sort of predictions on 22, 23? What do you think will happen for your company and the industry?
Well, I think that I think the one prediction is I think that the way we're vaccinating in terms of oldest first.
Yeah.
I think new thinking has to be go on in terms of the restart, because I think we were all thinking, because when we heard about cruise ships and 80-year-old passengers and who's going to get back, when are 80-year-olds going to get back on cruise ships, and when it first happened, all those cruise ships that were stranded and all the news of breath clouds and just horrible things. I think that's going to change. I think that you know, most of the world's elderly population, or in terms of the Western world, is going to be vaccinated before the end of March.
So you're going to change.
So I think that they're going to travel first. They're going to travel sooner.
And so, are you going to adapt what you offer to try and appeal to more of the
Well, we
mature
are
market.
because you know we also have G Touring with TravelSphere Just You,
Of
and
course,
so we
yeah.
had a business model with them with a later start, and we were doing our business when we were modeling in May and June about our restart and how we're going to get out of this. We thought, well, TravelSphere Just You, those models are going to take so much longer when they're an over 60 market, but that I don't think that that's the case anymore.
No, now they're going to be primed.
And so I think there's going to be a restart this summer significantly for Europe. That's going to be Europe-bound trips, people being able to travel in Europe. There'll be these kind of bridges between countries, bubbles that will open, and people will, and the vaccine rollout will continue over the summer, but people will want to get away. I think we'll get more significant numbers in September, and bigger numbers in the last quarter.
And what about long haul, Bruce? What about traveling long haul again?
I think that's going to be in the last quarter, but it's still only going to be people that are adventurous, I will just say, or people that are willing to look past some of the risks, because you might be vaccinated, but there might not be complete vaccination on the other side.
In the other way you're going to. Yeah. Okay.
But there's some people that'll brave that and some that won't. And I think that significant numbers will be from January next year. I think we'll get back to normal from January 22. We'll see much bigger numbers come from last quarter into the new year. That's what, and we have numbers and data that are showing that, just in terms of the booking patterns of when people can come on. But I also do believe that, you know, as the northern hemisphere goes into summer, which is going to happen in April, outside of vaccinations, we all know that when summer comes, people's immune systems get stronger. So outside of people vaccinated, because this is a coronavirus, it doesn't naturally dissipate because of sun, but people's immune systems are stronger. So there's going to be a combination of that with vaccines, and I think there's going to be a quicker recovery than we think, because we're in the middle right now of a second wave. It's depressing.
It's winter.
Our people are scared. It's winter. Our immune systems are down. We've been locked inside for 8 months, and so we're getting hit hard. I think that with summer coming and a combination of vaccines, I think we're going to see a faster swing than we had hoped.
Okay.
That's my hope and prediction.
Well, I like that. And I think on that note, that's a good place to leave it for now. We love it when you join us, Bruce. You're so brilliant.
Have me more often. I love talking to you too. You're one of my
favorites. I know, I couldn't believe it.
Why? Like April?
Well, I know.
April's the last time you talked to me. Am I a once a year guy? Come on. Have me more often, Lucy.
All right. So why don't we speak again in sort of April time when it's starting to get warmer? Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Well, at least a couple times a year. Don't forget the little people, Lucy.
Oh, come on. I'm hoping that I might actually see you at some point, for real. But maybe.
I don't know when that'll be.
No,
but it'll be a glorious day. It'll be a glorious day when I get to see you again. And anyone else in the travel industry in the UK. I cannot wait. My first trip is coming over to see you guys. So.
Oh, well, we'll hold you to that, definitely. Yeah. All right, Bruce. Yeah. Well, look, it's so kind of you to give us the time today. We wish you all the best. I hope it goes well. And thank you very much.